I'm sure the mainstream media will not show anyone a single clip because that would be the end of their propaganda. Yeah.
Yo, what up? This is D-Night from the Pardon the Insurrection podcast, coming to you from Nashville, Tennessee. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And that was Don Jr., once in his life, finally being right about something. As I would contend that over the course of the past 4 years of the Trump campaign and the previous 4 years of the Trump administration, that America has never seen anything like this in terms of the extent and the number of scandals surrounding a single presidential candidate. And because the media has done such a poor job of accurately portraying the extent of those scandals to the American people, people have no idea. But that's okay. We're going to remedy that today, because what we have for you is every single Trump campaign scandal over the course of the previous month. And I contend that it rivals the amount of scandals over the course of any single president's entire administration. And this is just a month.
What about Mike Pence? You got anything for Mike Pence?
Well, it's a shame because he and I had a very good relationship.
Hanging out somewhere.
He couldn't cross the line of doing what was right, in my opinion.
That was Donald Trump admitting that his vice president, Mike Pence, is no longer on the ticket because he refused to overthrow the government on January 6th. Here's a clip of Donald Trump saying that January 6th was, in fact, a peaceful transfer of power.
Maybe I can ask you then about something else. Yeah. Business people here in this room, business people, capital markets, they all like the rule of law. They like certainty. The Chinese, who you mentioned, other dictators,
right?
They don't like it when things go wrong. They like it when things go wrong in America. If you look at the events of January the 6th, 2021, it showed to many people America's democracy was unruly and violent. Only 3 weeks to go to the election. Will you commit now to respecting and encouraging a peaceful transfer of power?
Well, you had a peaceful transfer of power.
You had a peaceful transfer of power. You had a peaceful... Come on, President Trump. You had a peaceful transfer of power compared with Venezuela, but it was by far the worst transfer of power for a long time.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because this is what they like to do. This is what they like to do. It's very interesting.
The question, President Trump, is would you respect the decision?
When I found out about this interview, I did a little check. He's a man that has not been a big Trump fan over the years. So I had a choice. Do I do this interview or not? I'm glad I did it. But do I do this interview or do I disappoint a lot of people? Because I know a lot of people in the audience. But his view is very different than mine. Let me just tell you.
I'm asking you.
Here's Trump saying January 6th was a day of love.
They thought the election was a rigged election, and that's why they came. Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns down there. But that was a day of love from the standpoint of the millions. It's like hundreds of thousands. It could have been the way I used the water, the sand, the mixing of the sand and the water. I mean, many different, but I've had many awards over the years for environmental, the way I've built, because you know about.
Trump's top general calls him a fascist.
Well, like Mark Milley comes to mind, who, according to Bob Woodward's new book, War, called him a fascist. Would you go that far as to call him a fascist?
Look, I have tremendous respect for General Milley, and I see no reason to disagree with that assessment.
Here's Trump reiterating that you only have to vote for him once, and then he'll become a dictator.
So I have to be careful with this. I said once about a month ago, you only have to vote this one time, and after that, everything will be good. And the fake news said, see, he wants to be a dictator and take over the country. No, that's not what. I said we got to fix the country, got to make sure, and then the country will be great, and we're going to have, hopefully, some great person, whether it's JD or somebody else. And when the great Sean Hannity asked me a question, and I jokingly said, he said, okay, let's get this up. You don't want to be a dictator, do you? I said, Sean, I only want to be a dictator for one day, and I'm going to close the borders and drill, baby, drill. And after that, I never want to be a dictator, right? So the fake news took that answer, And they said, Sean, I want to be a dictator. Click, cut. So they said, Sean, I want to be a dictator. And they go, he wants to be a dictator. They cut the rest of these are the worst people. These are the worst. They said he's a threat to democracy. He wants to be a dictator. No, you know the threat to democracy are when you put incompetent people in charge of our country. That's a real threat to democracy.
Here's Trump practically admitting that he wants to use his administration to go after his political enemies.
How will you restore faith in our justice system? A lot of people will say, well, he's just going to do to them what they did to him and get back at them.
A lot of people say that's what should happen.
Well,
you want to know the truth.
Right. Well, but I think...
Here's Trump comparing imprisoned January 6 insurrectionists to wrongly detained Japanese residents during World War II.
No, they really won in the Supreme Court, okay, the Fisher case and the various cases. Why are they still being held? Nobody's ever been treated like this. Nobody's ever. Maybe the Japanese during Second World War, frankly. But, you know, they were held too. But
here's Trump invoking the Alien Enemies Act in order to round up immigrants and hold them in internment camps, i.e. the same law that was used to justify the internment of Japanese residents during World War II.
But first of all, we are going to end all sanctuary cities immediately. We're going to end them. Because they're really...
Is that an executive order you do that with?
They're really... I can do it with an executive order. I'll have to do it with an executive order. You can do it with the Aliens Act of 1798. We can do things in terms of moving people out. We can move them out of the sanctuary cities.
Here's Trump making a veiled threat to supporters of Kamala Harris.
Is there anybody here that's going to vote for Lion Kamala? Please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. Actually, I should say don't raise your hand. It would be very dangerous. We don't want to see anybody get hurt. Please don't raise your hand.
Here's Trump in dictator-like fashion saying that he abuses the media.
But there's also an element of who are going to be my allies, who are going to be my enemies. Did you sit there and say, the enemy of the people is media, I'm going to go after them? Or did you say, no, this happened accidentally? Was this intentional or was it accidental?
I think it's just long-term happened. It morphed into it. I don't think they said...
I'm talking specifically for you, though.
Yeah. For me, look, I'm the worst case because there's nobody been abused like I have. And I don't think, although I guess probably some, but for a shorter period of time. There's nobody for over such a long...
Who would you put? You even thought about it. Who do you think?
I'd have to think short-term. People have been abused, worse over one deal and they're gone, or something.
I got it.
But I've been doing this for a long time, and I've abused them also. So I do that.
What did you say? Did you target them and say, "I'm going to go attack media and I'm going to go after them"? Is that part of strategy that you had, or no? That was just
no.
If you come after me, I'm going to come after you.
I think it's a natural instinct with me. Like it would be for you and other people that know how to win a little bit.
Sure.
No, but I.
Here's Trump threatening to violate the First Amendment and take CBS off the air.
I've never heard of stuff like this before. And I think that I think that 60 Minutes should go off the air. I think it's the worst broadcast scandal I've ever heard.
No, it's not journalism. They don't do journalism over
Well, it's also election interference. It also is license threatening. They have a license that's not cable. Here they have a license from the federal government. And they pay nothing. They pay peanuts. They pay nothing. They should take that license away from CBS. They should absolutely. They violated the whole covenant of the license.
Here's Trump's former Secretary of Defense saying that Trump wanted to use the National Guard against American citizens in dictator-like fashion.
Do you fear that he would try to utilize the National Guard, the military, against U.S. citizens?
Yes, I do, of course, because I lived through that. And I saw over the summer of 2020 where President Trump and those around him wanted to use the National Guard in various capacities in cities such as Chicago and Portland and Seattle. And, of course, there was a moment in time, as you just described, where he, on that early date in June, where he wanted to bring in active duty military as well. So that's what equally concerns me about his comment would be the use of the military in these types of things. Now, the good news is I don't believe he has the authority under the law to use the military unless there was some type of civil disobedience or insurrection, in which case that would be use of the Insurrection Act. But otherwise, these other roles that he's described in the past are law enforcement, and that is prescribed under the Posse Comitatus Act, so he would not be able to use it. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but this would be a good discussion to have. But my sense is his inclination is to use the military in these situations, whereas my view is that that's a bad role for the military. It should only be law enforcement taking those actions.
But just to hear a former defense secretary say that they are fearful that the president they served under, the commander-in-chief they served for, would use the U.S. military against U.S. citizens. I mean, you were in that role when he suggested shooting protesters before. Aren't you worried about who could be in that role when he suggests something like that potentially again?
Well, yes, I've said that on many occasions, Caitlin, that my concern is that the last year of the first Trump term will look more like, or the first year of the second Trump term will look more like the last year of the first Trump term. I think President Trump has learned the key is getting people around you who will do your bidding, who will not push back, who will implement what you want to do. And I think he's talked about that. His acolytes have talked about that. I think loyalty will be the first litmus test. So
here's Trump admitting that he would, in fact, like to use the military against United States citizens.
What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day.
Well, he doesn't have any idea what's happening in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
Here's Ted Cruz being confronted for being an architect of the plot to overthrow the government on January 6th, and then hiding in a closet when things got a little too close for comfort.
I took off my suit jacket, and I was prepared to defend the House floor from the mob. At the same time, after he'd gone around the country lying about the election, after he'd been the architect of the attempt to overthrow that election, when that mob came, Senator Cruz was hiding in a supply closet. And that's okay. I don't want him to get hurt by the mob. I really don't. This election is his accountability. You cannot just be patriotic when your side wins. If for the first time in 250 years, this project of ours, this shared American project, that we did not have a peaceful transfer of power, the folks responsible have to be held accountable. That's why Liz Cheney has endorsed me, has got involved in this campaign, and is saying to Texans everywhere, do not put Ted Cruz back in a position of authority, because he's done it once, he'll do it again.
Here's Trump VP pick JD Vance, unable to say that Trump lost the 2020 election, which would thereby be an admission that January 6th was wrong.
In the debate, you were asked to clarify if you believe Trump lost the 2020 election. Do you believe he lost the 2020 election?
I think that Donald Trump and I have both raised a number of issues with the 2020 election, but we're focused on the future. I think there's an obsession here with focusing on 2020. I'm much more worried about what happened after 2020, which is a wide open border, groceries that are unaffordable. And look,
Senator,
Lulu,
yes or no?
Okay.
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Let me ask you a question. Is it okay that big technology companies censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, which independent analysis have said cost Donald Trump millions of votes?
Senator Vance, I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Did big technology companies censor a story that independent studies have suggested would have cost Trump millions of votes?
Senator
I think that's
Vance,
the question.
I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020
And I've answered
election?
your question with another question. You answer my question and I'll answer yours.
I have asked this question repeatedly. It is something that is very important for the American people to know. There is no proof, legal or otherwise, that Donald Trump did not lose the 2020 election.
You're repeating a slogan rather than engaging with what I'm saying, which is that when our own technology firms engage in industrial scale censorship, by the way, backed up by the federal government, in a way that independent studies suggest affect the votes, I'm worried about Americans who feel like there were problems in 2020. I'm not worried about this slogan that people throw. Well, every court case went this way. I'm talking about something very discrete, a problem of censorship in this country that I do think affected things in 2020, and more importantly, that led to Kamala Harris's governance, which has screwed this country up in a big way.
Senator, would you have certified the election in 2020? Yes or no?
I've said that I would have voted against certification because of the concern that I just raised. I think that when you have technology companies—
The answer is no.
When you have technology companies censoring Americans at a mass scale in a way that, again, independent studies have suggested affect the vote, I think that it's right to protest against that, to criticize that, and that's a totally reasonable thing.
So the answer is no.
Here's a clip of Donald Trump absolutely losing his mind and appearing to make no sense whatsoever at a campaign event.
Just come up, they want to do things like no more cows and no windows in buildings. They have some wonderful plans for this country. Honestly, they're crazy.
Here's Donald Trump at a campaign rally obsessing about the size of deceased golfer Arnold Palmer's dick. Can't make this up.
But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy that was all man. This man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I had to say it. We have women that are highly sophisticated here.
Here's Donald Trump at a rally after numerous medical emergencies forced attendees to be treated in the crowd, forgetting that he was supposed to answer questions and instead engaging in a 40-minute long dance session. It's unreal.
Yeah, you better call the Russians up. The way it's looking at is not enough. We all know prisons what you're running from, and Biden about to fuck him up. Yeah.
Here's Trump bragging about acing a cognitive test, a test that's not designed for you to ace. It either shows cognitive decline or it doesn't. And I feel as though bragging about it should just be an automatic failure.
No, that would bother me. But, you know, I took 2 cognitive tests, and I aced them both. I think that, frankly, people, regardless, should take, if they're 50 or 40, I think people should take cognitive tests, not because of the age, but because of something else. Now, here's the problem. They say it's unconstitutional, okay? But I would love to see cognitive tests. I don't think she could pass a cognitive test. I mean, I've watched. I don't think she could pass a cognitive test.
President Trump, you've gone over many issues on this. I asked you many questions about things. One thing.
Here's Trump inadvertently pointing out his own cognitive issues.
I was going to ask you about the Federal Reserve.
You got to be able to finish a thought because it's very important. You know, this is big stuff we're talking about. You can't go that quickly.
You've gone from the dollar to
So let
Macron.
me just tell you. So I said, no, I'm just telling you basic, it's called the weave. It's all these different things happening. Yeah. So let me just say, so I said to Mnuchin.
Here's Trump indulging in an obsession about a fictional serial killer.
And whenever I go, Hannibal Lecter, you know what I'm talking about. They always go the fake news. That's a lot of fake news back there, too. But they always mention, you know, it's a way of demeaning. They just say, Hannibal Lecter, why would he mention? Well, you know why? Because he was a sick puppy, and we have sick puppies coming into our country. I figure that's that's better than wasting a lot of words. You just say Hannibal Lecter, we don't want him, but they always sort of say, why would he say that? They do it for a lot of reasons, but
here's Trump allegedly sharding himself at a rally in Detroit.
From commerce to labor to FEMA. From commerce to labor to FEMA.
Here's Trump with a lack of self-awareness proclaiming that stupid people are a threat to our democracy. Also, why is he wearing blackface?
You see, that's the real threat to democracy, stupid people. That's the threat. Our biggest threat to democracy is stupid people.
Here's Trump telling his supporters to vote for him on January 5th.
It will be, I'll tell you, if everything works out, if everybody gets out and votes on January 5th, or before,
Here's Trump confessing to sexually assaulting a chart. Why? Why is this real?
I want to have a strong border. And that's why we had that beautiful chart, my favorite chart in history. I sleep with it. I kiss it.
Here's Trump proclaiming himself to be the most stable individual ever, while also forgetting that he is the one who coined the term stable genius, instead referring to the idea that they are saying that he's who is they? Who the is they?
Working. I am the most stable human being. Remember, they said a stable genius. I am the most stable human being. I've been doing this for a long time.
Here's Don Snorleone falling asleep at his own campaign event. Here's Trump suggesting that shoplifters are walking out of stores with refrigerators.
Are incredible. They want to do the job. They're not allowed to do the job. When thugs walk into a department store, 400 or 500, they walk out with refrigerators. Can you believe it? With air conditioners. And our police are told to stand back. They're not going to stand back, and we're going to indemnify them against any problems they have federally.
Here's Trump claiming that he made up the word caravan.
And I said, no, there isn't. You sent them over in a caravan. The caravan. I made up that name too. I'm good at names. You know the names? I can't use those names too much because many of them were for Republicans.
Here's Trump saying that God protected him on that day at the campaign event where a shooter attempted to assassinate him, even though he's ignoring the fact that the shooter killed multiple attendees of his own rally. His own supporters died, and he cares not.
For 16 harrowing seconds during the gunfire, time stopped as this vicious monster unleashed pure evil from his sniper's perch, not so far away. But by the hand of providence and the grace of God, that villain did not succeed in his goal, did not come close.
Here's Trump referring to Kamala Harris's running mate Tim Walz as a feminine hygiene product.
Work there, and yesterday, Tampon Tim said, you know why they call him that? Because they sell tampons with special legislation in boys' locker rooms. Can you believe it?
Here's Donald Trump allegedly sharding himself on stage at a campaign event. The Godfather.
From commerce to labor to FEMA. From commerce to labor to FEMA.
Here's Donald Trump performing so badly in the middle of an interview with the Full Send podcast that his staff has to drag him out of it because they don't want the public to see how much he's declined mentally.
I see my people are going crazy over there.
Oh, that's it?
At a certain point, you don't mind if they go crazy, but then you say, okay, it's time to go. Time to go, right? Okay.
Here's Trump glitching with the total inability to speak coherent English.
I will very quickly deflate. We are going to take inflation and we are going to deflate it. We are going to deflate inflation. We are going to defeat inflation. We're going to not.
Here's Trump having absolutely no idea whatsoever how tariffs work. For God's sake, he was president of the United States for 4 years. How does he not know how tariffs work?
And we will take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff to the benefit of American citizens and pay off debt, or we're going to take care of our, we owe $35 trillion. We're going to start cutting it down very quickly. We'll be able to with growth. We call it growth.
He also has no idea how windmills work. Condolences to everyone out there who he previously said was suffering from windmill cancer. Heart goes out to you guys.
The whole thing is crazy. You remember when I used to say, darling, I want to watch our president tonight on television. And the husband looks, I'm sorry, dear. The windmills aren't wind. There's no wind tonight. You can't watch, darling. We're not going to be watching tonight. Maybe we'll catch him another time. No, we have to be careful. We have to be smart. We're going to lose our country. These people are crazy. They're crazy. They're damn crazy. We're going to get out, we're going to vote. We'll get it clean.
Here's Elon Musk, someone who's known for taking copious amounts of ketamine, jumping around on stage with Trump.
His rocket company is the only reason we can now send America astronauts into space. Take over, Elon.
Did I mention that Elon Musk is running one of the largest pro-Trump political action committees, and there are laws on the books forbidding PACs from coordinating with the candidate or campaign that they're supporting? Last year's a video of Elon Musk admitting to Tucker Carlson that if Trump loses, he is forked.
If he loses, man, what?
You're fucked, dude. I'm fucked. If he loses, I'm fucked.
It does seem that way. You can't just be like, yo,
yeah, I'm like, how long do you think my prison sentence is going to be? Do you think? Will I see my children? I don't know.
Because it's not like you can say, well, yeah, I maxed out to him, but, you have
no plausible deniability.
Is Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson daydreaming about the assassination of none other than presidential candidate Kamala Harris?
Which is like nobody's even bothering to try to kill Kamala because it's pointless. What do you achieve? Nothing.
No, it's totally
just find another puppet.
Exactly.
It's no point in killing.
It's deep and true, though.
Nobody's trying to kill Joe Biden. It would be pointless.
Totally.
Despite the fact that everyone arrested for allegedly attempting to assassinate Donald Trump being registered Republicans, here's Trump, in fact, trying to blame Democrats for attempting to have him assassinated.
We have a lot of them. Over the past 8 years, those who want to stop us from achieving this future have slandered me, impeached me, indicted me, tried to throw me off the ballot, and who knows, maybe even tried to kill me.
Despite Elon Musk's multi-$100 million investment into the Trump campaign, it appears to have no sway on Trump's perception of electric cars.
We're going to have hybrids. We're going to have gasoline-propelled cars. We're not going to have hydrogen cars. You know, hydrogen cars is the new thing, right? Do you know about that? Hydrogen is the new car. They say it's great. Has one problem. If it explodes, you're dead. If it explodes, they actually say if it explodes, you're unrecognizable. You call your wife over. They call up the wife, would you please come here and take a look and see whether or not this is your husband, because we cannot see. And she goes to the nearest tree, which is about 100 yards away, and she says, no, it's only blood. There's nothing there. She says, I can't tell. So hydrogen has one problem. It's extraordinarily dangerous. Other than that, the car works quite well, actually. I won't get near. I will never get. I don't care how good it becomes. No matter. And they'll probably say they're making it safe, but it'll never be safe enough for us congressmen, right?
He also has no idea what Starlink is.
They said, could you do us a favor? Could you help us? We're trying to get Starlink, and it's very hard to get. Most people say you can't even get it. I called up Elon. I said, North Carolina's in big trouble. Georgia's in big trouble. They need communication. They have none because their poles have been knocked down and their wires are underwater and even dangerously underwater, but they have no communication. Elon, could you do something about Starlink, whatever the hell that is, Elon? Whatever Starlink, that's all they want to hear is Starlink. And
here's Trump in Nazi fashion referring to immigrants as animals.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
Here's Fox host Greg Gutfeld admitting to the fact that stories about migrants eating animals were in fact made up.
You know, these bastards were more offended by stories of cats being eaten than real stories reported here of actual rape and murder. And if you ask why those other stories existed, it was the only way to get these a-holes in the media to even look at this story.
Here's Trump refusing to condemn bomb threats that were motivated by Trump's comments suggesting that immigrants were eating cats and dogs.
Do you denounce the bomb threats in Springfield, Ohio?
I don't know what happened with the bomb threats. I know that it's been taken over by illegal migrants, and that's a terrible thing that happened. Springfield was this beautiful town, and now they're going through hell. It's a sad thing. Not going to happen with me, I can tell you right now.
Here's Trump promising the largest deportation in United States history. There's no way to do that in such a way that won't involve the collection and expulsion of actual American citizens.
Day one, I will seal the border and stop the migrant invasion into our country. We will begin the largest deportation operation in the history of the United States. Dwight Eisenhower right now has that record. It's not, and by the way, it's not something I want to do. I dread having to do it, but we have no choice. What they've done to our country is not even believable, especially the criminals, the criminal element that's in our country. And again, all over the world, crime rates are down because they've taken their criminals and they've dumped them into the United States. And you know what? I would have been worse than them. I would have had it done even faster. They've dumped them into the United States of America, and that's what we have. And it's dangerous out there. We're getting them out. We're getting them out quick.
Here's Trump admitting that he killed the bipartisan border bill.
They say, we're going to make the border tougher. How about she said, oh, we had a good border bill, but Trump talked Congress out of that.
Here's an ad about JD Vance's hatred of immigrants while being married to the daughter of, you guessed it, an immigrant.
What is wrong with JD Vance? Everywhere he goes, he stirs up hate against immigrants. Who's he married to? A daughter of immigrants. He married her when he was still an anti-Trumper, comparing Trump to Hitler.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
In Springfield, kids are under armed guard. Their class day photos canceled. This time, it's Haitians. Next time, it might be Indians. What kind of man stirs up hate that could turn on his own children? The kind of man JD Vance is. He made a fortune attacking his hometown and his own family. Now, he's hating on immigrants. His own wife's family. This isn't about politics. It's about basic decency. His neighbors and his own family can't trust JD Vance. Why should America?
Here's Trump blaming the American Jewish community Nazi style if he loses the 2024 election.
But I will put it to you very simply and gently. I really haven't been treated right, but you haven't been treated right because you're putting yourself in great danger, and the United States hasn't been treated right. So if I don't win this election, and I've been very good, you know, they say Trump's been right about everything. I have been right about a lot of things. Even Ted will admit that. I've been right about a lot of things that a lot of people said, no, that won't happen, but a lot of bad things happened, and some good things I've been right about too. And I only want to be, so I'm not going to call this as a prediction, but in my opinion, the Jewish people would have a lot to do with a loss. If I'm at 40%, if I'm at 4%, think of it, that means 60% are voting for Kamala, who in particular is a bad Democrat. The Democrats are bad to Israel, very bad. They'll never change because they have a section of their party now which has become amazingly and quickly very powerful vote-wise. I mean, Chuck Schumer is a Palestinian. Who would have thought that was going to happen? What the hell happened to him? I saw him the other day. He was dressed in one of their robes. Now, that'll be next.
Here's Donald Trump professing his love of self-proclaimed black Nazi candidate for governor in North Carolina, Mark Robinson. Just, my God, man.
Mark Robinson, he's out there, he's fighting. A very good man. This is Martin Luther King on steroids. I think you're better than Martin Luther King. I think you are Martin Luther King times 2. I think he's going to go down as one of the great leaders in our country. I've been with him a lot. I've gotten to know him, and he's outstanding. He's outstanding in presentation, but he's probably even more outstanding in heart. Somebody that we have to be very, very careful. We have to cherish. We have to cherish, Mark. He's a star. You have to cherish him. Amen. It's like a fine wine, because that's what you have. You have a fine wine. He's an outstanding person. I've gotten to know him so well and fairly quickly.
Here's a boat parade organized by Eric and Laura Trump, complete with Nazis.
Look at this beautiful swastikas. There we go. White power. Hell, Trump. Yeah. Make America white again. Woo, woo, woo. We're out here in Jupiter, loving it, loving the good weather, blue skies. Woo! Make America white. They see that sign, brother. Let me see that sign. There we go, man. My Pillow, 1488. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Here's Trump doing a racism.
Less. Would you rather have the black president or the white president who got 1.7 billion off the price? I think they want the white guy right now.
Here's Trump doing another racism.
But any African American or Hispanic, and you know how well I'm doing there, that votes for Kamala, you got to have your head examined because they are really screwing you.
Here's Trump blaming Abraham Lincoln for the Civil War by not compromising on slavery. I don't even understand what the possible compromise could be. It's either or.
Great presidents. Well, Lincoln was probably a great president, although I've always said, why wasn't that settled? You know, I'm a guy that it doesn't make sense. We had a Civil War.
Well, half the country left before he got there.
Yeah. But you'd almost say, like, why wasn't that?
Here's conservative hero Lieutenant Dan, made infamous by his refusal to flee Florida via his 20-foot boat in lieu of a massive hurricane that was approaching Florida, saying the N-word. Is this really a Trump-related scandal? I don't know, but everyone the right seems to love is apparently a racist.
But if you want to get back into my good graces, you're going to have to take time. Take a lot of work, and it's going to be hard. Because once I cut you off, you're done, nigga. Sorry. All right? That's it, you're done.
Here's JD Vance defending the Mark Robinson sex scandal while conveniently ignoring the self-proclaimed black Nazi part of his comments.
A sex scandal in North Carolina is between the lieutenant governor and the people of North Carolina. They're going to make their decision, and we support them.
Here's President Biden being forced to respond to comments from Marjorie Taylor Greene that they are controlling the hurricanes.
Former President Trump has led the onslaught of lies. Assertions have been made that property is being confiscated. That's simply not true. They're saying people impacted by these storms will receive $750 in cash and no more. That's simply not true. They're saying the money is needed for this crisis is being diverted to migrants. What a ridiculous thing to say. It's not true. Now the claims are getting even more bizarre. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congresswoman of Georgia, is now saying the federal government is literally controlling the weather. We're controlling the weather. It's beyond ridiculous. It's got to stop.
Here's Trump praising Marjorie Taylor Greene's intelligence.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's going to knock it over. It's going to knock it on its ass like you knock your competitors on their ass, Marjorie. Right? And she does. She is highly respected, let me tell you. Smart.
While also being the only Florida man who does not know what a Category 5 hurricane is.
We don't even know what's coming at us. All we know is it's possibly the biggest. I'm not sure that I've ever even heard of a Category 5. I knew it existed, and I've seen some Category 4s. You don't even see them that much, but a Category 5 is something that I don't know that I've ever even heard the term, other than I know it's there. That's the ultimate, and that's what we have, unfortunately.
Here's Trump refusing to send disaster aid to California, no matter how many Republican voters live there.
But North Carolina really got hit. I'll tell you what, those people should never vote for a Democrat because they held back aid. They were so bad. And we'll say, Gavin, if you don't do it, we're not giving you any of that fire money that we send you all the time for all the forest fires that you have.
Here's a Trump-endorsed congressman proposing the abolishment of FEMA.
When I get back to Washington, that's the first thing. We need a reorganization of FEMA. That is completely, I mean, it's like the Department of Education. Shut it down, send that money to the states where they know best for how to do it.
Here's Trump, a criminal convicted on 34 felony counts, referring to his opponent Kamala Harris, who is a lifelong prosecutor, as a criminal.
She actually created an app, a phone system, where they can call up. I mean, she's a criminal. She's a criminal. She really is. If you think about it.
Here's Trump telling his supporters to vote for him twice, which is election fraud.
Your ballots, if you get the unsolicited ballots, send it in, and then go make sure it counted. And if it doesn't tabulate, you vote. You just vote. And then if they calculate it very late, which they shouldn't be doing, they'll see you voted, and so it won't count. So send it in early, and then go and vote. and if it's not tabulated, you vote, and the vote is going to count. You can't let them take your vote away. These people are playing dirty politics. Dirty politics. So if you have an absentee ballot, or as I call it, a solicited ballot, you send it in. But I would check it in any event. I would go and follow it and go vote. And everybody here wants to vote.
Here's Trump saying that he wants to appoint a convicted felon to his administration.
And I spotted him. You had no problems when he was in charge. You know who that is? Sheriff Joe. Sheriff Joe! Oh, stand up. Oh. Brandon, sign him up immediately. Paul, you got to sign him up immediately. Sheriff Joe. Well, you didn't have any problems with Sheriff Joe. He was tough.
Here's Trump signing an American flag on 9/11 after having previously said over the summer that he wants to imprison anyone who violates the U.S. flag code. Here's Trump announcing a cryptocurrency scam weeks before a presidential election.
Big news, the World Liberty Financial Token Sale is now live. Crypto is the future. Let's embrace this incredible technology and lead the world in digital economy. Go to worldlibertyfinancial.com.
Also, here's Trump's $60 America First Bible scam.
Folks, it appears the Trump Bible scam goes even deeper than we previously knew. This is like a Russian nesting doll of scam on top of scam on top of scam. Although I think this time it's more fitting to actually call it a Chinese nesting doll. I'll explain why in just a minute. My name is Brett Meiselas here with the Midas Touch Network. Remember to hit subscribe. We're on our way to 3.5 million. So here's the headline news right here, summed up by our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski. Trump's Bibles are made in Hangzhou, China. They shipped 120,000 of them this year to the U.S. The cost to the wholesaler is $3 each. Trump is selling them for $60. Are his new China tariffs going to be slapped on these since they cost American jobs, or will they get one of his famous waivers?
Here's Trump announcing that he's selling $100,000 Swiss watches that we discovered were made in China.
Expensive items, well, that's nothing new.
Hello, everyone. It's your favorite president, Donald J. Trump, here to introduce something really special. I think you're going to love it. My new Trump watches. We're doing quite a number with watches, and the quality to me is very important. The Trump victory.
All right, maybe you've seen this ad where, the current GOP candidate for president is selling a pricey gold watch emblazoned with his name and diamonds.
A website boasts of the brand's exquisite Swiss-made power and precision. One model has a six-figure price tag, as you can see there on the left. The black and gold, I don't even know how to pronounce that, tourbillon? Tourbillon. Yeah.
Tourbillon, yep.
I'm not sure. But CNN tried to find the makers of Trump's new watches. The company is nowhere near Switzerland.
Here's Trump's media company, Truth Social, having to fire numerous executives because the value of the company tanked, and also presumably because they committed numerous crimes.
This is Michael Popak for Legal AF. Just when you thought Truth Social and that dumpster fire of a company that Donald Trump owns couldn't get any worse, it has. We've got new reporting coming out of ProPublica and Truth Social Trump Media itself, in which it had to disclose that it canned two of its major chief officers. It fired its chief operating officer, that's the person that makes the trains run on time every day, Andy Northwell, and its chief products officer, that's the person responsible for creating new revenue streams and opportunities within a company. A company that doesn't have any revenue streams just fired its chief products officer, Sandro De Marai. Now, on the surface, it just looks like, all right, well, they've been around for a year or two and they lost a couple of senior people. No. According to ProPublica, the reason for the firing is in retaliation, it looks like, at least on the surface, because of an internal investigation that started within the company because of a secret whistleblower who complained about certain behaviors and mismanagement by the CEO of the company, former congressperson and MAGA superstar Devin Nunes.
Here's Trump saying Fox News is writing scripts for his public appearances. Why is a media outlet writing the script for a presidential candidate?
Your material was real funny. Who wrote it? Who helped you with it?
Well, I've had a lot of people helping. A couple of people from Fox, actually. I shouldn't say that, but they wrote some jokes. And for the most part, I didn't like any of them.
Should we see some highlights? I think you did great.
Go ahead. Thank you very much. It's an honor. And they told me under no circumstances are you allowed to use a teleprompter. And I got up here and I see there's this beautiful teleprompter. So here I am.
Here's Trump saying that he doesn't need a teleprompter, as there's a teleprompter literally right next to him.
What Kamala did not talk about in her lies last night, just lied. Everything was a lie. And I always say, why didn't she do it? You know, she's been here almost 4 years. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Reading off a teleprompter. Isn't it nice to have a president that doesn't need a teleprompter? I don't know.
Here's Fox News lying to their audience by presenting manipulated video.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
Kamala Harris has said you sounded unhinged and unchecked power is in our future. What do you say about that?
I thought it was a nice presentation. I wasn't unhinged. You know what they are? They're a party of sound bites. Somebody asked me, can they be brought together? You know, I never thought really, I wasn't thinking like they could, because they're very, very different. And it is the enemy from within, and they're very dangerous. They're Marxists and communists and fascists, and they're sick. I use a guy like Adam Schiff because they made up the Russia hoax. It took 2 years to solve the problem. Absolutely nothing was done wrong, et cetera, et cetera. They're dangerous for our country. We have China, we have Russia, we have all these countries. If you have a smart president, they can all be handled. The more difficult are, the Pelosi's, these people, they're so sick and they're so evil. If they would spend their time trying to make America great again, it would be so easy to make this country great. But when I heard about that, they were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
Adjudicated perpetrator of sexual assault claims that he wants to protect women.
So they said, and I said a week ago, I think women like me because I will be your protector, and I protected you for 4 years.
Here's Trump feeling as though it's Harvey Weinstein, adjudicated rapist, getting the raw end of the deal.
Democrats don't have to be honest. They really don't have to be honest because they will never be accused of anything. It's interesting. I was so amazed that Harvey Weinstein got schlonged. He got hit as hard as you can get hit because he was sort of the king of the woke, right? Yeah. And yet he got hit. And I figured that maybe he wouldn't get hit so hard. But boy, did he get, you don't know him well, I don't know him well, but I watched that, and it was amazing. So when they do get hit, they get hit. But that's the only one I can think of. Normally, they protect everybody. What they did with Adams, I think, is very suspect.
Here's Donald Trump insulting not only Kamala Harris, but the host of the Call Her Daddy podcast, one of the most popular podcasts in America with women.
I think the other one asking the question is dumber than Kamala. So she's a dummy. I watched her over the years. That is one dumb woman. Sorry. I'm sorry, women. She's a dummy.
Here's evidence of Trump after being convicted of hush money payments to Stormy Daniels to illegally influence the outcome of the 2016 election, presumably attempting to pay off Stormy Daniels' hush money to illegally influence the results of the 2024 election. Just, time is a flat circle.
I don't know why I am surprised that this is happening. I will admit to being a little bit bewildered by it, as well as a little bit shocked by it, even though none of us should be shocked by anything. But let me lay it out for you. So As you mentioned, and as we all know, Trump was convicted earlier this year, 34 felonies, after he paid Stormy Daniels to be quiet. He paid her 11 days before the 2016 election to not talk about her, what she described as her unpleasant experience having sex with him. He paid her so voters would not know about that when they went to vote in 2016. Well, now we have just learned, we have reported out 20 days, here it is, 20 days before this election, we can report that he is once again trying to pay Stormy Daniels to be quiet ahead of this next election.
Here's Trump trashing the biggest city in Michigan, a state that he needs to win the election to ensure that he does not go to prison.
No doubt about it. So I've been talking about for the last year about Detroit and how horribly it has been. You know, it's just horrible because we've been talking about Detroit's coming back for 40 years. And it's.
Here's JD Vance holding a rally full of auto workers who are not actually auto workers. They are scabs.
But this Michigan thing, and obviously we desperately need to win Michigan, but on the ground, I don't see this. On Tuesday, JD Vance had a rally there, and there were guys wearing auto workers for Trump shirts that weren't actually auto workers, so just paid to wear the T-shirt there. When there was the auto workers strike, Joe Biden on the picket line, Donald Trump had a rally that he said was in support of the unions, but was at a non-union plant because the union workers didn't want him there with him. So
here's Trump completely insulting auto workers and their intelligence and the ability to do their jobs.
United States, and they have a little bit. But you know what they really are? Assembly, like in South Carolina. But they build everything in Germany, and then they assemble it here. They get away with murder because they say, oh, yes, we're building cars. They don't build cars. They take them out of a box and they assemble them. We could have our child do it.
Can we come back?
Here's Trump, who recently canceled his second debate with Kamala Harris in a clip suggesting that anyone unwilling to debate is unfit to hold office.
And, you know, some of them don't have the courage to do it. I don't want to say who, but there are a couple
we know who they are.
I mean, there are a couple of them that called me and told me, Donald, I'm just too nervous to do it. And I'm saying to myself, here's a guy that's supposed to negotiate, or a person that's supposed to negotiate against China. These guys come out of the womb, they never cry. You know, they're not even crying. And we have guys that are afraid to go into a debate.
Here's Trump supporters being stranded at a manure plant rally outside of Coachella because his campaign did not pay the buses. You literally can't make this shit up, even if you make it for a living.
Gas. They had no gas. They had to. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You can't imagine how many people are still. There's so many people still here.
I know. I'm trying to get people to come back.
No, they. We're the last bus, guys. Look at that.
Yeah. Sorry? This is the last bus.
I've been stranded here. No way. No more buses are coming. No more. They just got noticed.
If you get any authorization, they can contact me or
Incredible. I didn't even know about this line. Yeah. No way. No, this is criminal. No. I didn't even know about this line.
The Trump campaign paid Melania Trump $155,000 speaking fee for a single rally.
Just in time for Valentine's Day, we find out that Melania Trump is actually paid by Donald Trump to speak at Trump's rallies. Melania got paid $155,000 to speak at a Trump rally. Let that sink in. The man has to pay his own wife to come to his political events. This is the same guy where all the people that were in his inner circle, one by one, are testifying against him. The people who know Donald Trump best hate him. Shouldn't that tell you something?
Apparently, Trump's top general called him a fascist.
The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley, talked to Bob Woodward for the journalist's new book, and he did not mince words. He said, quote, "I had suspicions when I talked to you about his mental decline and so forth, but now I realize he's a total fascist. He is now the most dangerous person to this country, a fascist to the core."
Bob Woodward says that Trump's former director of national intelligence believes that Trump is being blackmailed by Vladimir Putin.
And I discussed this with Coates several months ago. He said, is this blackmail? In other words, is Trump being blackmailed?
I mean, that is wild. I don't think that has really sunk in for the public yet, that his own director of national intelligence suspects he might be getting blackmailed. It's not a Democrat. This is not some crazy liberal commentator. It's his own director of national intelligence that suspects that.
Yes, and one of the very important elements in all of this is to understand how good our intelligence is. As I report in the book, at one point, the United States has a human source in the Kremlin that the electronic and technical intelligence, it's never perfect, but it's much greater. So when they get into seeing war plans, it's not something that's just partial, it's a complete laydown.
In case you missed it somehow, Trump sent extraordinarily valuable COVID testing machines to Vladimir Putin at the height of the pandemic when Americans were dying, and also after leaving office. While in the possession of numerous classified documents, Trump apparently contacted Vladimir Putin more than half a dozen times.
Former President Donald Trump's relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin has long intrigued and concerned many. Recent reports have revealed that Trump held private conversations with Putin up to 7 times as a private citizen. These secret exchanges, both during and after his presidency, raise serious questions about their nature and purpose. One of the most startling revelations involved Trump secretly sending COVID-19 test machines to Putin in 2020. At Putin's request, Trump ensured no one knew about this gesture. "Please don't tell anybody you sent these to me," Putin asked. Trump replied, "I don't care, fine."
Bill Kristol, I mean, how odd is this to you? I mean, would you say there's something wrong with a former president having as many as 7 calls with an adversary, right, who's been talking about and threatening, lobbing nukes at U.S. allies or at the U.S. in the course of the Ukraine war? How do you even get your head around this?
No, I mean, that really is, the other stuff is bizarre, as president, sending Putin the COVID kit, but it doesn't seem to threaten U.S. interests. This is really appalling. I mean, this is presumably some of these conversations, maybe all of them happened after Putin invaded Ukraine, after we had sanctions against Russia. Trump is sitting there having private conversations with Putin, who we are doing our best to defeat in Ukraine. Who knows what they're saying? He kicks his aide out of the room. Is he giving Putin advice on how to deal with the Republican Party and how to make a good case for himself here in America? Is Putin giving him, Trump, advice? Is Putin giving Trump instructions? Is Putin promising Trump certain things? If Trump rallies the Republicans to be not pro-Ukraine and instead pro-Putin, Trump's sitting at Mar-a-Lago. There's no national security official on the phone where there would be, presumably most of the time at least, if you're actually sitting in the White House and if you're president. There's no record of it at all. Trump's sitting with all these classified documents he took to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. We really, I mean, the degree of not just irresponsibility, but possible really terrible behavior and damage to the interests of the United States here, it's really extraordinary.
Right.
When asked, Trump won't deny having secret conversations with Vladimir Putin.
Mention
but
Putin.
These are big things. I have to mention them.
Yeah, you just mentioned Putin, though, and this has been this controversy of the past week. Can you say yes or no whether you have talked to Vladimir Putin since you stopped being president?
Well, I don't comment on that, but I will tell you that if I did, it's a smart thing. If I'm friendly with people, if I have a relationship with people, that's a good thing, not a bad thing, in terms of a country. He's got 2,000 nuclear weapons, and so do we. China has a lot less, but they'll catch us within 5 years.
That sounds very much like...
If I have a relationship... I don't talk about that.
You talk about talking to Netanyahu, you talk about talking to these people.
Russia has...
Trump also admits to secretly meeting with Vladimir Putin after having left office.
Is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after
Trump also appears to suggest that once president, he's willing to surrender Ukraine to Russia.
I disagree, but I will say this. I believe I will be able to make a deal between President Putin and President Zelensky quite quickly.
But what does that look like? What does that look like? What is that?
I don't want to tell you what that looks like.
Trump also says that once he's president, that he won't support NATO countries should they be attacked by Russia.
But it was at a meeting and he stood up, the head of a country, one of the countries. He said, so does that mean that if we don't pay, you will not protect us from Russia? It used to be the Soviet Union, now it's Russia. Sort of the same thing. I said, that's what it means. You will not protect us. I said, are you delinquent? Yes. Let's say we're delinquent. I will not protect you under any form. You will not be protected.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau testifies before the Foreign Intelligence Committee that Russia is paying right-wing influencers such as Tucker Carlson and Jordan Peterson. Not surprising.
Hugely amplified by Russian propaganda. And once Ukraine was invaded, we saw a lot of those channels become pro-Putin propaganda channels. And as I said, we've recently seen that RT is currently funding bloggers and other YouTube personalities of the right, such as Jordan Peterson, other names that are well known, and Tucker Carlson as well, in order to amplify messages that are destabilizing democracies.
Right-wing influencer Tim Pool comments on the fact that he and others in his field are also being compensated by Russian intelligence.
Joining us on the line right now is Tim Pool. He is host of Timcast IRL, CEO of timcast.com, and host of the Culture War podcast. You can see that over at his YouTube channel. Tim, thanks for joining the show. Great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
So there are two big stories that you are currently involved in. One wasn't enough for you. One of them is, of course, the very widely covered story about a DOJ indictment involving apparently Tenet Media. Tenet Media, according to the allegations, was being paid effectively by a Russian front. And when I say the company was, what I really mean is the founders of the company apparently were, if the allegations in the indictment are true. And all the media ran with was that because you are a host whose show is posted at Tenet Media, that this must have implicated you or Dave Rubin or Benny Johnson. Why don't you give us sort of the rundown of what's going on here?
So, I mean, it's kind of crazy to hear that they're saying the media's jumped the gun completely on what the story is. The DOJ indictment literally says that commentators were deceived, that there was a rather sophisticated plan to manipulate the commentators of the platform so that they wouldn't know what was going on. And I can say on my end, everything that happens here goes through our legal team, and we have multiple lawyers. So when someone reaches out to me and says, "Hey, we want to do a potential," like we have sponsorships, and I don't know who these companies are, and we're a company with like 40 employees, and so when someone reaches out to us, I say, "Great, cool." Someone handle it and talk to the lawyers.
You and I disagree, I think, on some of the elements around the Ukraine war, but the idea that's been put forth by the media is that somehow you were being paid directly by Vladimir Putin in order to express those views, and that therefore anybody who disagrees with sort of the Democratic take or even the sort of moderate Republican take on this must be paid by Russia. That, of course, is an absurdity, and I think it is wrapped into a broader narrative that seems to be ramping up just in time for the election, which is that Russia's going to interfere in the election on behalf of Donald Trump, and that everybody on the right is in some form or fashion working for the Russians, which is why they're for Donald Trump in the first place.
Yeah, here we go again. I mean, my views probably align more with the Libertarian Party. That's it. Russia sucks. I'm not a fan of Russia. I think Vladimir Putin is a dictator who's used unethical and dictatorial means to maintain power for decades. This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine. They are expanding this war. Now, don't get me wrong. I know You've got criminal elements of the U.S. government pushing them and guiding them and telling them what to do. Ukraine is now accused, a German warrant issued for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, triggering this conflict. Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world. We should rescind all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia.
Trump appears to believe that America is a shithole country.
Like my legacy to be is the same as the term MAGA, make America great again. I'm going to make this country great again. It's not a great country right now. It's loaded up.
It's always a great country. It's a great country.
See, that's
it's always a great country.
Okay, but
then suggest that we will lift sanctions on Russia and Iran because America needs them.
So my specific question is, would you strengthen or modify any of these economic sanctions programs, particularly Russia, including the pipeline you mentioned?
well, it's a great question. The problem with what we have with sanctions, and I was a user of sanctions, but I'd put them on and take them off as quickly as possible because ultimately it kills your dollar and it kills everything the dollar represents, and we have to continue to have that be the world currency. I think it's important. I think it would be losing a war. If we lost the dollar as the world currency, I think that would be the equivalent of losing a war. That would make us a third world country, and we can't let it happen. So I use sanctions very powerfully against countries that deserve it, and then I take them off. Because look, you're losing Iran, you're losing Russia. China is out there trying to get their currency to be the dominant currency, as you know better than anybody. All of these things are happening. You're losing so many countries because there's so much conflict with all of these countries that you're going to lose that, and we can't lose that. So I want to use sanctions as little as possible.
Here's a clip of Trump proclaiming that the United States should bomb Iran, which would likely get us involved in yet another war in the Middle East.
The oil refinery, don't hit the nuclear sites. Do you think that's wise, or would you tell Netanyahu to do what he needs?
Did you ever hear of anyone say, don't hit the meat? He's going, don't hit the nuclear. They asked him the other day, would you hit? Well, I don't think you should hit the nuclear. I thought it was the opposite. Okay, I sort of thought it was the opposite. The nuclear is the biggest single problem the world has, not global warming, where the ocean will rise 1/8 of an inch in the next 500 years. You know, these people are crazy. The biggest problem we have is nuclear warming, not global warming. And the nuclear people can't have the nuclear.
Convicted fraudster suggested in Project 2025 fashion that he should have control over the Federal Reserve.
I think I have the right to say, as a very good businessman and somebody that's used a lot of sense, I think I have the right to say that, you know, I think I'm better than he would be. I think I'm better than most people would be in that position. I think I have the right to say I think you should go up or down a little bit.
In Project 2025 fashion, Trump suggested he's going to defund the schools.
It's not anything to do with school choice, also. But also, separate from school choice, we're going to take the Department of Education, close it. I'm going to close it. We'll have one person, could be you if you decide to retire.
Okay, Mr. President, here's what bothers
central casting.
Here's what bothers me about that. So let's say you have a liberal city, let's Los Angeles, San Diego, and they just decide we're going to get rid of that history. We got new history. This is America built off the backs of slaves on stolen land.
Then
and that curriculum comes in.
Then we don't send them money. We would save half of our budget.
Okay.
While also believing that the safest way to protect kids from gun violence is to have more guns in schools.
But people that were in the military, that are in the classroom, and they have access to guns, whether it's on them or in a little safe or something, you know, the problem is if it's in a safe, it takes a long time to get it, right? So, you know, but sometimes I think, and I've heard that and I've thought about it a lot, and in some ways I like that more than just having police standing someplace in the building. Do you like that idea? It would be a small percentage of the teachers, like 5%, but that would be much more than you would ever have with
anything is better than nothing.
And in line with Project 2025, JD Vance says he wants to clean house at the Department of Justice and at the FBI.
But he's like, the leadership of our agency is so broken that you've got to clean house. And that's what we're going to do. We are going to...
Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett at a congressional hearing exposes the direct connection between Project 2025 Donald Trump.
Nevertheless, while we do have two amazing authors from Project 2025, which it seems like everybody got the memo, like, yes, I'm going to double down and say it's my thing, but I'm going to make sure I also say that it ain't our homeboys thing, because we know that it doesn't poll very well with the American people, because the American people are woke enough to recognize that there is nothing good in it for them. So with that being said, Ms. Perryman, I'm just curious, and this is yes or no. Is Trump's name ever mentioned in Project 2025? Yes or no? Just yes or no. I got you. I got you. Okay. 5 times. I haven't counted. Oh, okay. Well, if I told you that his name is mentioned approximately 312 times, would you have any reason to dispute that? I don't have any reason. Okay, thank you very much. So it's interesting that we want to try to pretend. We're not going to pretend in here. We're going to work with facts and not fiction. So I also want to talk about inflation really quickly with you, Ms. Perryman, because we've talked about it a lot. I'm just curious to know, is the inflation that we just struggled through, was that global or was that limited to the United States? Global. Global. Seemingly, it was attached to this thing called the global pandemic. Is that correct? That is my understanding. Oh, okay. So it wasn't just the United States. No. Okay, so it wasn't just a matter of the Biden-Harris administration and the United States is struggling, right? I think the United States actually fared better than the rest. Oh, yeah. In fact, we are, correct? I think so, yeah. All right, but inflation still hurts, and so that's why we have a candidate that has an actual plan instead of concepts of a plan.
Trump says that if he's elected on day one, he wants to appoint Tom Homan. Tom Homan is the author of Project 2025. Can you believe it?
Do you already have like plans, proposals ready to go if you get elected? You start the deportation process. You start sealing off the border and doing executive orders, whatever it takes, whatever's within your power.
Done.
It's already done, ready to go.
You've seen Tom Homan. He's coming on board. They're all coming. The whole group is coming on board.
But of course, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't include all of the scandals associated with the Harris administration. Namely, that she proclaimed that she once worked at McDonald's, despite the fact that she's unable to offer up video proof. But that's okay. Trump is willing to show that he is, in fact, also a man of the people by serving a short stint at McDonald's.
I could do this all day. I wouldn't mind this job. I like this job. I think I might come back and do it again. Thank you. Look at that.
Mr.
Look at that. How are you?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Nice to see you.
You made it possible for ordinary people like us to meet you.
You're not ordinary.
I mean, thank you so much for everything you're doing.
I can see.
We pray for you, and you are the type of person we want to be the president.
Thank you.
And being frank with you, that wasn't even every single scandal that's related to the Trump campaign that occurred over the course of the past month, including things like Trump saying that he hates Taylor Swift, or thousands of pages of evidence being released by Jack Smith's office that proves Trump is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in his attempt to overthrow the government on January 6th. To cover all of that, a single month's worth of Trump campaign scandals, we need a 10-episode Netflix documentary. But we're a couple of weeks out from the election, and you have the opportunity to vote for an alternative should you so choose. And if you're still supporting Trump after all of that, well, I can say that at least you understand how Hitler came to power in 1930s Germany. If you enjoyed this video or you're otherwise horrified beyond belief, make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And you can find me on my podcast, Pardon the Insurrection, available everywhere podcasts are found, and also here on YouTube.